Hello everyone. So, unlike a lot of the other presentations that you'll see today, I was a volunteer for 9 weeks in the Amazon rainforest at a conservation nonprofit called Hatun Sacha. It's located on about 5,000 acres of primary rainforest, and it's run by Quechua people. That's an indigenous group in Ecuador. Hatun Sacha is pretty small. It's pictured right there. And it's really a center of scientific research. Thousands of species of frogs and plants have been discovered at Hatun Sacha. They do a lot of environmental education there, especially with the local communities. And it's a place where people volunteer from all over the world. So when I was there, I met probably 30 other volunteers and only one other person from the United States. Hatun Sacha features a botanical garden that had species of endangered orchids, marine plants, hallucinogenics, and a medicinal plant garden, which is where I primarily worked. And they had an observation tower that was 100 meters tall, and if you climbed up that thing with no harness, like I did, you could see the canopy of the rainforest, and it was frequented by photographers. I think my favorite week that I was at the station was my second week there, when a group of German and Chinese butterfly photographers from National Geographic came, and they were stalking butterflies and climbing up this tower and just taking pictures all day, and that was really interesting. And the size of the station varied from week to week. The first 2 weeks I was there were only 8 permanent people, and then by my 6th week there were 40 people at the station. So how busy it was really depended on what we were doing. Going into this project, I had no communication with the staff of Hatun Sacha, and I actually never really could talk to them because they only spoke Quechua, and I don't speak Quechua. I still don't. And so I kept my goals pretty open-ended, but the reason that I went and the reason that I volunteered is because I'm a philosophy major, and I don't really do much. I sit at my desk, I write a lot of essays, I read some books, I play World of Warcraft, and so the reason that I did this fellowship was so that I could get out of my house, and so that I could go do something, and so that I could experience moral dilemmas in the field. And in order to do that, I needed to leave my house in order to know about environmental ethics, I thought. And so I conducted interviews, I talked to a lot of people, and that was my goal going into it, and I did that. And then I wanted to challenge myself, and I knew that in order to challenge myself, I couldn't go do an office job. I couldn't just do something here because I'd be too comfortable. I had to go into a situation where I had no idea what was happening in order to really grow from it. And so I decided to leave the country and go to the Amazon rainforest and carry around a machete. It's pretty exciting. And then since I was a volunteer, I just wanted to assist Hatun Sacha in any way I could. I just went in and I was like, I'll do whatever the heck you want. But my last goal was to see an ocelot. Those are the ocelots I saw right up there. I didn't get to take them home, but they're little tiny leopards, and that was great. For the most part, as a volunteer, I did pretty average stuff. I worked from 7 in the morning until noon, and then from 2 to 4 every day. And we went on a lot of hikes. We swept trails. We visited indigenous communities a lot and helped them with projects. And then I had 3 sort of main projects I was doing. The first was I worked with an Ecuadorian student researcher who now goes to Cornell, and because I told him that he could go to school in Iowa. That's one of the impacts of my fellowship, is I told this Ecuadorian guy, you should go to Iowa, and he actually did, and this is his first semester at school. But I worked with him on this project where in the 80s, a group of botanists took a plot of land adjacent to Hatun Sacha that had been basically cleared for agriculture, and they roped it off with red tape, and they counted up all the trees there, and they identified them, and they wrote them down in a book. And then every 4 years, someone comes back and they count the trees again, they measure the trees, and they now entered into a computer system that graphs how the rainforest has grown over time. And if you go there now, I promise if you're from the Midwest like I am, you will not know the difference between this plot of land and primary rainforest. So for me, this was a really important project because I got to see the resiliency of nature in action. I think a lot of times when we think about the rainforest, we think, oh gosh, people are cutting it down every day and it's never coming back. I learned that that's not quite true, and I learned how we can replant a rainforest and how long it will take to restore the biodiversity levels to what they need to be to support rainforest animals. My second project was the total opposite of what I wanted to be doing. I would walk 2 kilometers a few times a week to an indigenous community called New Conjakauzai, and I would chop down trees with machete. And that is because the indigenous community said, please help us build a farm. And so we did. We brought our machetes and the chainsaw and we cut down trees and we cleared a huge plot of land, like, gosh, 4 hedges or something like that during the 9 weeks that I was there. And then towards the end, we started planting corn and yucca. And the reason we did this is not just because people asked for our help, but because it created a great income source for the indigenous community and for Hatun-Sacha. Running a nonprofit requires having some profit. And it also provided a Hatun-Sacha staff with a great opportunity to teach people about sustainable and organic farming. And then my last project, when I didn't want to machete down trees, I would work by myself in those botanical gardens. There was a medicinal nursery and there was a shaman nearby. His name was Jonas, and he's a Quechua shaman. And he basically helped me learn all about the medicinal plants in the rainforest. And so I cared for these little baby plants. It was real cute, you know. I like plucked weeds from them and I identified them and labeled them, and got to really set up the botanical gardens to be used for research in the future, because before I started organizing it, it was a hot mess down there. And then lastly, I just tried to learn about environmental ethics all day, every day. I, at the end of the night, would write in a journal and I would interview people and I would reflect on all of my moral dilemmas, real and imagined. During my many long days of thinking, I came to a few conclusions regarding the state of environmental ethics, and the truth is, this is going to be really brief because I don't have much time, but I wrote a 50-page research paper on this, and if you want to read it, you probably know my email, or you might know where I live, and you can come to my student symposium presentation on Saturday. But what I pretty much learned is that compromise is necessary in order to get anything done. Philosophers don't like to compromise. They see compromise as failure. And I pretty much did too, but especially doing this project where I had to machete down trees, I realized that we have to compromise if we want to get anything done. I realized that environmental ethics, in order to be sustainable, have to focus on what works and on what matters. And so sometimes, you know, you can't worry about the grasshoppers that you might be killing when you're chopping down trees, because there's things you need to get done. I learned that people can hold different values. This is called moral pluralism. And that even if our values contradict each other and aren't the same, they can be as equally real and as valid to the person holding them. And I learned that environmental ethics and environmentalism in general have to focus more on the human aspect of things, because a lot of times environmentalists, we like to think about trees and we like to think about the frogs and about the ocelots, but we have to remember that people share the land with the not people, and we need to consider them because cooperation is absolutely necessary for a sustainable future. And lastly, this all kind of filters into the main point of my thesis paper, which is pragmatism. Pragmatism is a philosophical approach that assesses the validity of a theory based on its practical application into reality. So it says, gosh, if your philosophy doesn't work in real life, then it's probably not a very good theory either. And this was an important lesson for me to learn. I want to say thank you so much to the Cornell Fellows Program for taking me on. I feel like it was probably a risk. I came in the office and I was like, gosh, I've never done anything before, but you should let me go to the Amazon rainforest. And so thank you so much to people like Jason and Sue and RJ, who decided to take a chance on me and decided that this project was worth it. And thank you to Jonas, the shaman, who taught me basically everything I knew. Towards my 7th week there, I figured out that he could speak English and had been knowing what I said the whole time. And then thank you to Adriana Fernandez. She's a woman who works in Washington, D.C., who set me up with Hatun-Sacha, because, as I said, I didn't talk to them before I left, so I needed an international NGO to get me there. And then thank you so much to my academic advisor and to my faculty sponsor, Professor James White. Without him and without his unconditional support, I probably wouldn't be a student here, because I'm just too bad for anyone else to take me. So thank you so much, Jim, for supporting me and for believing in me. Thank you, everyone.